me.
I knew Barry Long when he lived in London. I went to some of his talks, I had talks with him, and yes, I loved his teaching very much.
That's where my great knowledge comes from. For I am already dead, long dead. I am Dr. Death is my name. I kill everybody in front of me, right? When they love God enough, I will change them.
When talking to him, I understood the importance of that state of being free of thinking.
Like Barry Long, who was a former Sydney newspaper editor, Tolle had an epiphany when he was 30. He abandoned his life of depression and anxiety to live on the street in a state of pure bliss.
And I thought it's wonderful. He was not only Australian, I think he was also a Leo, so, astrologically speaking. So these two together made him a very powerful teacher.
Barry Long died in 2003, and while his teachings live on, he's not in the same league as his one-time disciple, Eckhart Tolle.
This is the most exciting thing I've ever done, and presented by one of the most important books of our time.
Barry Long was a Australian spiritual teacher. He passed away some maybe 10 years ago or so. He lived in London when I was also living in London at a time when I was still trying to find some answers to my inner transformation. So I visited Buddhist monasteries at the time, and I got some answers there. And then I discovered Barry Long and talked to him a few times and went to some of his talks in Highgate, London. And the simplicity of his teaching, of stepping out of your mind, the cessation of thinking, which I had just heard from before meeting Barry Long, I talked to a Zen monk who said, well, Zen really is all about not thinking. That really is what Zen is. And then I thought, oh, not thinking. And at that moment I realized, well, that's what happened to me when I went through this shift in consciousness. I actually, after that, didn't think that much anymore. My thought activity had become reduced by, don't know what percentage, 70% or whatever. And a little later I talked to Barry Long, who said exactly the same thing, who said, he later made a tape, actually, how to stop thinking. But I didn't need that tape anymore because I had already stopped. But I began to realize the importance of accessing that dimension, and I could then explain to others how that works. I had a wonderful to relate to him as a human being, because he was so in touch with the inner dimension of presence. And he was a newspaper man for many years in Australia, and then had a spiritual awakening, and then became a spiritual teacher. Yes, I loved him, and we had some good talks.